Welcome everyone once again to another video in the Asian Film Marathon, and we have yet another Masters of Cinema review, and we'll be looking at the Ballad of Narayama. The first thing to talk about with this film is it's by a director called Shohei Imamura, directed in 1983, and it won the Palme d'Or in Cannes. And the plot of the film is, in the village of Narayama, it is a custom when you turn 70 that you must climb a certain mountain to die, otherwise it would disgrace your family, their family. So we take a look at this old woman called Oren in the village and her family, and coming the winter it'll be her turn to go up the mountain. However, before she goes, she wants to see her son get a wife and other loose ends and stuff like that to tie up before she goes. Now, it's based on a novel of the same name. I can't remember the author, and it was first adapted to film in 1958, and that's a version that I was going to watch in this marathon, but I'm going to leave it until later on to watch now, and I look forward to seeing the original. And I'll talk a bit about that later on when I talk about the extras, because there's some stuff in there about it. But all I can say is Imamura's version is just completely visually striking, spiritually powerful, and it deals with all these different issues such as death, old age, mortality, primal instinct, survival, hardship, and sexuality as well. There's so many themes going on in there as well, and it really leaves you with something to think about, especially in the last half hour, which is definitely where my rating got boosted, because it was such a powerful last half hour, and it was full of symbolism and metaphor, and it was just a beautiful ending to the film. And so to start off with, I'd like to just talk about some of the main themes in the film. So really, this is a film about hardship and struggle, and it really shows survival of humans, and it kind of parallels in with animals, which I'll get into later as well. And you see people stealing crops, stealing food, struggling to grow crops, and just finding it really hard to live. They all live together in a family. Some of them don't even get married, and you really get a sense that they're struggling to survive. And there is lots of these shots of animals. You can even see some on the back here, where it kind of parallels to kind of say humans are like these animals. For instance, you see shots of animals mating, and that parallels with there's a whole lot of sex in the film, and again that ties in with the cycle of life that it has as well. And there's a lot in there as well about life cycles and seasons, and I think that's something in Asian cinema that's quite an obsession. But you also see shots of animals getting eaten by other animals, and in a really great scene there's you see one of the men shooting a hare, and then an eagle swoops down and tries to grab it. I don't think it actually does grab it, but it tries. And really that is just, it gets across that idea, survival of the fittest, eat or be eaten. And you can just see that humans are trying to survive just like all these other animals and beasts in the forest area that the village of Narayama is in. And you can see that real struggle. And you also see other animals eating each other as well. There's one with a mouse being ate by a snake, and I think that's getting across what's happening in the village and the characters, and they're getting consumed by death and forces of nature. So there's a lot in there. It's a really complex and good film, and while I thought it was a bit heavy-handed, with all the shots of the animals, I thought that it was really well done. It does go a little overboard by showing us so much of it. It's like we get the point. It could also be called kind of pretentious as well, but I thought it was really well done, and it really helped get into the atmosphere of the film, because it was quite hypnotic at times as well. And there's lots of sex in the film, and again, with shots of animals mating, and it really is a struggle of survival. And I think the whole sex thing as well, it does tie in with the cycle of life, because the film's also broken into seasons, and I think that's one of the things that you see in a lot of Asian films, especially Japanese films, where it's showing you the cycle of life. And it couldn't be more true with this film, because the law is they have to go up at the age of 70 and stuff, and they have to go up at the age of 70, which is to make room for a new life. And when we see it, it's a culture shock as well whenever we look at that with this law, because it's completely absurd to Western viewers. I think it would be absurd to most people, in fact. And seeing this new perspective, this other perspective, examining that law and how the characters have to accept death, because it's like their death is warranted as soon as they're born. And there's drawbacks to it, obviously. It's not something that I condone, but you can certainly see, realistically, it is a thing that could keep the mortality rate down. It would keep populations down, and I can completely understand why this little village must do it, because it's so hard to survive anyway, and the older you get, the harder it is for you to be maintained by other people. So I can definitely see where it's coming from. Not that I would condone such a thing. I don't want to die at 70. I'd like to live till I was 80, 85, hopefully. But yeah, mortality and death is really a strong theme in Asian cinema, and especially Japanese cinema, I think. And really, it is all about mortality and life and death. It really is those, how could you say, meta themes. Those big themes are always explored in film and most art, because it's always about what's it all about sort of thing. And in Ballad of Narayama, you've got this Oren character, and it's just amazing to see her as she accepts. Most of the characters, they're not really surprised about all the death and all the things happen to them. They sort of brush it off. They cry about it, but they brush it off and survive. And it really does show true hardship. And I think that's one thing I've really enjoyed in this marathon, looking at people in hardship. And I think Asian cinema is really good at capturing that, because you've got films like Italian neorealism films like Bicycle Thieves, Umberto D, and Rome Open City. You've got those kind of films and also British ones that look at class and hardship. But I think there's something about Asian films that take it to the next level, because it gets down to this really primal thing, because we're talking thousands of years, it could be hundreds of thousands of years ago before you would have these modern city poverty problems. This is where it was a real struggle just to get food and to survive, and I think Asian cinema is really good at capturing that, because they have such a heritage and such a tradition and such culture behind them, and you get a real sense of that throughout all the films that I've watched so far in Japanese films, even anime ones. You get a sense of their culture and history, and again, it's a culture shock, and that's one thing I just find fascinating with watching these films. And the setting of the film as well is another thing I'd like to talk about, because it has great cinematography. There's some beautiful shots of trees and sunsets and landscapes and everything, and really, really beautiful. But also you got these really great costumes and set pieces, and it's really gritty and dirty, and muck and dirt. You get that real sense of the atmosphere and the village of Narayama, and that struggle of survival. Again, it all parallels and reflects on the characters' emotions and the struggle that they're all facing, and that's one of the great things that the film does with the cinematography, and you get a real sense of the atmosphere. And acting dedication is something I'd like to talk about, because it is really fascinating knowing this fact. The actor Sumiko Sakamoto, who plays this old woman here, the interesting thing about her is she's a really dedicated actress, and in one scene in the film, it's quite early on, this isn't really a spoiler, but she knocks out her own teeth, and it is said, it is true that she did knock her own teeth out in the scene. And if that's not acting dedication, I don't know what is, because you see it happen. And if you didn't know this before, and I think it's good, you should know that before you watch it, because when you see it happening, you think to yourself, oh my god, she actually done that. She just hits him against a rock like that, and you see the blood and everything, and you're like, wow, that's actually real, and she actually done that. And that's just crazy. I mean, there's scenes towards the end of the film as well where you wonder how they get doing that, because today you've got all this health and safety crap, and actors, they don't want to break nails and they don't want to do this or that. You just see the actors getting right into their roles, this raw energy that's being created, because her son has to carry her up the mountain on his back, and at one part, and it's not faked at all. You can see, if I'm rightly, that he's actually taking this old woman up that mountain, and I think that really demonstrates the dedication the actors had in the film and Imamura's image, and it all suits. And I actually read through this quickly. There's a little director's statement in the booklet. I'll talk more about the booklet in a second, but there's a really great quote in here at the end. In filming the life and death of Oren, I wanted to clarify my own feelings about the true meaning of human life. And before that, he also says, the rule was that a human being had to die to leave space for a new life. The theft of food was punishment of death. Unwanted daughters were sold. Second and third sons spent their whole lives with their parents, working in the land, never permitted to marry. No matter how unbearable customs seemed, the local people yielded to them. And that captures the image that Imamura wanted to capture, and it ties in with the ideas of absolute hardship and struggle of survival and getting on with life no matter how sad and tragic it is. So again, it's the ballad of the human spirit, a bit like the Burmese harp, and how we just have to carry on with things. And I think it is really great with that. I think it was within the last half hour that my reading definitely went up. And before I move on to the actual Blu-ray release, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the scenes. Now, keep in mind this will be a bit of a spoiler bit, so it's for people that have seen the film, and I just want to kind of talk a bit about it. There are some scenes in it that are quite just harrowing, completely haunting. There's one the most powerful image in the film, I think, is going to be when you see a whole family getting buried. I mean, the people just go in and take them all out of the house, and within 10 minutes, not even in film space, within 10 minutes, within 3-4 minutes on screen, you're seeing that they've just got buried alive in the big pit, and they've all, just how quickly they've done it. I can't think of something more horrific. That is one of the most horrific things I've ever seen, and it really is a harrowing scene. It doesn't need music or anything. You just sit and watch, and you watch it happen, and it's a really harrowing scene. Another thing that was a real surprise in this film, I'm surprised this was a 15 actually, because it had some things in there that were quite distasteful in a sense. But you've got this one character who's the brother, the son of Oren, or the grandson, and I can't remember his name, but he's absolutely disgusting, and he's known as the town stinker, basically, because he's completely unsanitary and not clean at all. But he's really sexually frustrated and desperate because he's not married yet or anything, he doesn't have a wife or whatever, and he's very sexually frustrated. So you see him running about, spying on, being a peeping Tom, basically, and in this really disgusting scene that I barely want to even bring up, because it's just so fucking weird. Because it's just so fucking weird. I have to swear at it, because it's just, there's a dog, and he basically goes over to try and mate with the dog, and that poor dog, but he doesn't actually get through with doing it because he gets spotted, and to his embarrassment, he is then known as this disgusting guy. But wow, it's just bestiality. It's just not right in the film. Just say it's so off-kiltering in the film, and for Western viewers especially, you're like, because it's so unacceptable in today's society. Everywhere it's unacceptable in society, but in the film, while they do disapprove of it, they don't seem to be like, oh my god, you're absolutely horrible. They just make fun. They just kind of poke fun at him and make fun of him. And yeah, so moving on to the actual Blu-ray itself. So really good release. It's a dual format release from Masters of Cinema, and you've got the 44-page booklet, and you've also got the trailers and an interview with Tony Raines, who did one for Burmese Harp as well, and he talks a bit about the film and the dedication that went into the acting and just generally the production. And what I love about this, because I haven't read the whole thing, there's some really, really nice images in it too. Some really, really nice images. But what was nice in this, it has a production guide, production diary, and I didn't realize how long the filming must have went on for, because it says here 1981 winter, and then 1982 spring, 1983 spring. So it took pretty much 2 years to film, and it's an incredible length of time to shoot a film. I don't even imagine what it must be like. But a really great booklet as well, and has that great little director's comment on the film, and an interview with Imamura as well. And overall, this is one of the best films I watched in the marathon, and it's definitely up there with my favourite Japanese films, because it gives you a real insight to life and death, and a new perspective on what happens in the film. A new perspective in the sense you sort of think about mortality as well. So it is a very thought-provoking film that leaves you thinking. It isn't mind-blowing, and it's not a true masterpiece, but I can see why it won the Palme d'Or in 1983. It's a really surprising film, very gritty, quite bleak, and yeah, it's just a great film. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you check this out. If you've seen it, leave your comments below. I would love to hear what you think of it. And until next time, everyone, I'll see you then at the next video in the marathon.